Like I recall my mom saying to someone like, I don't even know how much she likes High School Musical or if she just likes Zac Efron. And I remember my cheeks going, this is my Hawke and this is my music history. When I was a kid, my dad used to sing me Redheaded Stranger before I fell asleep. It's been so long since I've listened to it, but like, he's wild in his sorrow, I think is the line from the chorus. And that really hit me, wild in my sorrow. Because in my mind, I was like kind of a sad kid, you know? The sadness was so quiet and shy and like insulate, like tucking in. And this idea of like kind of ripping forward with your sadness and being wild in it, I think really stayed with me. I remember my mom gave me a sound machine, like a sound maker machine for by my bed, because I had a hard time sleeping and had like rain sounds and all, but it also had a CD player. And then I like found some random CDs in my house, and one of them was India Aries' first album. And I played video, My Worth Is Not Determined by the Price of My Clothes, over and over and over and over again, dancing in my room. But I probably drove people the most crazy listening to the Hannah Montana, Miley Cyrus album, where like half of it was Miley and half of it was Hannah. It was a very special album, and I also got to see that album on tour where she did half the show in the wig and then half the show without it, and it was crazy awesome. I loved that whole show and that whole world. And why I loved it, I mean, first of all, everyone my age loved it. Like, I wasn't special. I was attracted to the idea that there was I think as we all were, the possibility to hold another side of yourself that was like more powerful, more confident, more strong. And I think the way that every young person, or most of them at least, at some point has the idea of like, next year when I go to school, I'm coming back like the quiet one. Or next year when I go to school, I'm coming back and I'm going to have cool clothes. So I think there was some like power at the idea of a secret self that attracted me. I don't know. I mean, the way I grew up had a lot of like inside outside, right? Like what you're putting forward to the public and what is your private self. Well, I don't know if you can call it a musician crush, but I was never like a poster girl. Like I never was like a girl who had like posters in my bedroom, but I had one, and it was of High School Musical era Zac Efron. I loved High School Musical, and I watched it over and over and over again, and I loved Zac Efron. And I remember it particularly because I was very embarrassed when people would talk about it. Like, that's how I can recall the crush I had, because I recall the flushing of the cheeks. Like, I recall my mom saying to someone like, I don't even know how much she likes High School Musical or if she just likes Zac Efron. And I remember my cheeks going. Fiona Apple and the Criminal video was like definitely a awakening of some kind for me, of like, I don't know, like kind of a violent femininity that was very gorgeous and glorious to me. There was probably a recital where I know that the first couple songs I played at a recital were Love of My Life, Bright Eyes, and Taylor Swift's Hours. And I did 2 covers at like the piano recital from our guitar and piano teacher that taught my brother and I. The real first time was I did a show at Cafe Vivaldi at the end of my 8th grade year where I played like 45 minutes of original songs. I remember it very clearly. I remember being like, why do I have to pee still? I have to pee again. I don't know, it was my nervousness or whatever. And then kind of got really freaked out and stopped playing music for a while. I think I felt too known or too seen, and somehow I felt finished. Like I'd done this, I'd written these songs, I'd expressed myself, and now I was finished. That was the end marker of that adventure, and that I felt too naked and it felt too intense, and I didn't want to go back there or something like that. The first couple songs I wrote were rip-offs. I ripped off a Hannah Montana song, and I ripped off a Rilo Kiley song. The first time I wrote a song that was not a rip-off, I might have been a song called Pandora's Box. Pandora's Box has many locks, but it also has a window. And one of my favorite things to do in my songwriting now is rip off my earlier songs. Like, usually they had like one good line and mostly bad lines. And I would kind of I'll go in and take them. And so like, there's a line in my song, Luna Moth, that's from that song Pandora's Box. The opening of the Lizzie McGuire movie, the hairbrush. What song is she singing again?
Tide is High?
Yes.
Oh,
The
Bobby.
tide is high, but I'm holding on. That was probably my first, like, whoa, music and movies is amazing. I watched a lot of Disney Channel growing up. I, like I said, kind of stopped writing music after this 8th grade show. I kept doing it. I wrote like some protest songs in high school about gun violence, and I wrote some like songs for crushes or friends of mine, but I didn't I was a hobbyist and I got way more into poetry. I do think that songwriting is the best medium for poetry, but they're also really different. So I just got more and more interested in poetry and less interested in songwriting. And then when I started working professionally as an actor, I started writing songs again. And I wrote a song that has never seen the light of day about the Royal Marine Hotel in Dunleary, Ireland. And I brought it to someone who had given me advice about my songwriting when I was younger, Jesse Harris, because he was one of the first people who ever had given me a response to one of my songs that wasn't amazing, kind of like a neutral, good job, kid. He'd been like, that's really good. People who have good voices sometimes think they don't have to write good melodies. I bet you if you worked a little bit on that melody, you could make it better and it would make your voice sound even better. And I remember that moment because I was like, oh, this person's taking me seriously because they think I'm good enough to be worthy of giving guidance to. And so I reached out to Jesse to play him my new song. And I was like, hey, is this better? Is there a melody in this? And he was like, yeah, totally. And we worked on it a little bit. And then at the end of it, he was like, if you ever write a poem or something and you want help writing music to it, I'm always here. So a couple months went by and I wrote this. I went to go see Call Me By Your Name. And as I walked out of Call Me By Your Name, I wrote a poem on my walk home, and that was To Love a Boy, which was the first song that I put out. And I sent it to Jesse and he sent me back some music for it, and I just loved the music. And then we did one more and he was like, hey, I think these are really good. I think we should put them out. And I was like, okay. And we recorded them together in a studio really simply in his home studio. And I credit him so much for the fact that I have a music career, because I was really not interested in having a music career. I was really interested in being musical and expanding myself musically as a way to keep my creative fire lit while I was waiting and auditioning and trying to get an acting job. I just wanted to keep myself feeling alive through this. And he was like, no, we should put them out. They're good. And I was like, okay. The first review that I read about my work, how I would describe it in my memory, was a Pitchfork review. And basically what it said was, this isn't very good, but it's a lot better than I thought it would be. And I was hugely flattered. I remember being ecstatic. I was like, it's better than they thought it would be. I really appreciated it. I wanted to be better than was expected. And I knew what was expected of me. The 3 songs that became my arrow pointing me toward what I wanted to make was Goodbye Rocket Ship, Mirth, and Generous Heart were the 3 songs off of my first record. I was like, okay, I'm still proud of those. And I'm still proud of those to this day. And I want to move in the direction of that. And the first time I felt the sound that felt like me, and the lyrics, off my second album, Mermaid Bar and Driver and Luna Moth. My life is weird. A lot of my early shows sold out, but not because of my music, because of Stranger Things. And a lot of people would buy a ticket just to come and try to get me to sign a Stranger Things poster when it ended. But I remember when I first played a show for people who I could tell were there for the music. And that was on my Moss tour. And there was this one night I've talked about before where everyone in the room had taped these paper Luna Moths to the backs of their phones and turned their flashlights on. And I was like, oh my God, they're here for the music. And it changed my life that night. It's so, what's beautiful to me about it? It shows that there is a social environment occurring around your music that you have nothing to do with, that people are bonding and connecting and finding each other. And that's the dream of making art, is that you create community. There wasn't one day where I noticed. It's not like we're all together all the time. There are these little groups that you're in, and every season I had a different group, and every different group I was like, oh, that person also does music, and so does that person. I learned about Finn first, and then it was kind of a cascading. Finn was kind of my first friend on the show. I still haven't. I look forward to maybe that day arriving someday. That part is hard. I mean, it's a part of why this album, the paint at the cover instead of using a photograph, my face is so connected to so many characters and so many images, and that aren't my poetry, that aren't my meanness. I love all those things. I'm proud of the work that I did, but they're different than my meanness, you know? And in this music, I'm sharing a part of me. Something felt wrong about having the part of me that I'm sharing be visually connected to me as a transformer, which I also love. I love to be a transformer. I love to have to shapeshift and take on these different roles and go to these different places. And I don't want every time my face is in a story for people to be like, well, in one of her songs, she said that she likes this or she's thinking like that. You know, I don't want that to be clouded by that. And I don't want my music to be clouded by people thinking that they're listening to like a Robin Buckley post Stranger Things alt side plot where she becomes a rocker, you know, which would be great. But I don't want them to think that's what it is. And so that's kind of why I did the self-portrait. So anyway, I haven't had that moment. I actually find it very difficult. And I look forward to having that moment someday.